On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we are back in the house because I have been having the worst winter, and I can't wait to show you guys why. And maybe we can fix it today. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, we are back in the house where I have been having heat problems all winter long. It is the worst time to be without heat in Kansas. This was supposed to be another record-setting storm. They were saying like 12 plus inches of snow. It was never gonna stop. But instead it was like a very dusty snow, dry, super nice to clear, and the entire city closed. That's all there is to say about it. Wichita shut down. All the food places are closed. No one's out driving. What, I've seen 5-6 cars since I left the house, which is absolutely nuts. It looks like there's actually a couple of them coming my way finally, but the roads are snow-packed, relatively clear though, and out in the Land Rover, it is so easy to drive around on this. I gotta give this thing some credit. It is incredible. As soon as it starts slipping, you can feel the front wheels just pull the car through so it doesn't try to come around on you. Traction control's doing its job. This whole thing rocks. And you know, we might have ended up getting like 8 inches of snow at least because it's super thick where it's cleared, and I know what it took to clear my driveway. It felt like there were 8 inches there. It took hours, and I was clearing it multiple times. So we got some snow. City shut down. They've already canceled schools and, you know, all the churches. That's all canceled in advance, so maybe it is a bit of a winter storm here. But I'm out having fun. I'm just ripping in the Land Rover and the Escape. The Land Rover and the Escape are all I'm driving for the whole storm, and I'm having a great time. But with that said, let's get back inside and fix my heater so that I can survive these multiple days of 0 degrees. Even last winter, that's when this started. Now, last winter, I think the problem started towards the end and they were kind of short-lived, and that's when this unit was brand new. And then it's ran for a year, right? I mean, the air conditioning is perfect, but the heat has been the problem. And I've always kind of thought the heat was the problem because of a physical restriction on our PVC here for the flue. So we have our intake line right here, we have our exhaust right here, and we did follow the limits exactly. What is this, 2-inch pipe? Usually it's printed on the PVC right there, but I think it's 2, and we have the exact amount of elbows that you are allowed as the limit. But I was thinking like maybe we have too many elbows with too much length, because this has to run all the way out of the roof because there's no way to get penetrations through the brick on this house. As you guys know, I have this amazing Navian tankless water heater right here. It rocks, never has an issue, and it has the exact same number of elbows, which has always made me wonder, like, why does this never have a single problem, never an error on the display or anything, and the heat always has a problem, right? So that's a little bit of our troubleshooting right there, but we're gonna jump into this right now. What happens is this thing will fire up, and then there will be a click, and the gas valve will shut off for a second, and then it'll try to turn back on, it'll like stutter, fail, and then all of a sudden it just bails out and then does a full restart, right? It checks for the draft blower again, and then it lights back up with the igniter, and it runs through a whole cycle. So I literally recorded an entire cycle so you guys can see this thing trying all the way until it bails out. Now, I know this is very long, and it's kind of interesting to watch, right? A lot of times you're not watching your heater at your house with the cover off. And it's no big deal, right? You can run this with the cover off all the time. You're not gonna end up with like gases coming back in. This is actually, it's wide open. It doesn't like connect to the fire or anything like that. If the cover's on, it can suck the air from outside. If not, it can pull the air from inside. Disclaimer, this video is not legal advice. I'm not an HVAC technician. I've just been doing this all my life, so I'm showing you guys how to fix this stuff in an emergency where there's nothing else you can do. But I've been troubleshooting away on this thing for a long time, and right now I'm gonna show you the run cycle where it's having its problem, right? I shot this as a video for you guys. Feel free to skip back to real time right now if you don't wanna watch it run, but it's kinda cool to see. Gas valve tried like 2 times to reopen. And I think it's gonna go for a relight. There it goes. It's got to be gas pressure. I don't think this is a intake air or exhaust air problem. It's got to be gas pressure. Back open, closed. And now I don't think it tries for 3. I think it just gives up here. And it should lock out. Oh, we get a relight. The house might actually heat. We get 3 chances at this. You know, I thought it was flame rollout, but obviously we're not seeing that happen here. This thing's aggressive when the fire comes on. All right, that's it. No more relights in there. Let's take a look at the error code. That is the sequence. All right, now you've seen everything that goes on, right? The inducer spins up and then the gas valve opens up. Once the igniter is all the way up to temp, it's actually just a timer on the igniter there. And that's just one of those hot wire igniters basically. Then the gas turns on, it lights. Then we have that random failure. Actually, you're gonna see it right now, live. The blower just came on, so the thermostat just requested the heater, and it's been doing better ever since my dad said jump every single thing in here in order, so we did take our jumper wire here and we have stepped through everything in here. Now, I do want you guys to know everything in here is dumb. You can unhook any of these temp sensors, anything like that, put a wire in there and the circuit will be completed. They're not measuring current, resistance, anything like that. All of this stuff is super dumb. Like, if you look at this set of temp sensors, wire comes in here and they're literally just jumped together, wire goes out there. So originally in the old versions of these heaters, everything was like one circuit, and if any of the safeties broke, it quit. So these days, for diag reasons, they have multiple circuits, so it can kind of tell you what went wrong. But we jumped it all. I jumped the temp sensor in here. We cleaned the flame sensor, which is this guy right back here. You can see him kind of poking out. We jumped these sensors. Actually, we jumped them all together because it's one circuit, right? And then I jumped this switch, and then I stopped there because this is the one switch I didn't want to jump. You have to actually leave this one normally open, and then once the blower spins up here in a second, this one has to make. And normally, like everything else in the furnace, you can just leave jumped and the furnace will work. Do not do this, right? Because you do want the safeties to work. But while you're troubleshooting, you can just jump things. This one, you have to you've got about 5 seconds after the blower spins up to make this circuit, so that's what I did. And then it turns out it was all fixed. It was the one thing I didn't want to try, and that seems like it was the problem. When I did that, I also pulled this hose off from the draft inducer and blew it out. There was no restriction in it, but for some reason it seems like it's working better. I'm pretty sure it is a bad pressure switch on this unit. After all that troubleshooting, and now we're 3 months into needing the heat, I finally decided to check the very last thing. And guess what? It was the very last thing. So I just got back from the Goodman store downtown here, which has the original part for this guy. And it was only $29 if you buy it from the Goodman dealer. Online, it's like $47 everywhere. So just so you know, it's cheaper if you use a wholesale account at the Goodman store. And we're gonna change these guys out right now. I did find out 1DL is not an error at all. It's just delay waiting for thermostat. So if the thermostat's not calling for heat, you always have 1DL. Maybe the thermostat is only calling for fan right now, but let's go up there and take a look. I would assume it's calling for heat and this thing locked out the heat, but we'll find out in a moment. Look at that, it's not calling for heat. It might start. Okay, I'm not gonna adjust this because Control 4 is controlling it, and if I adjust the thermostat, it breaks everything. Instead of waiting around, let's go ahead and swap in this new set of pressure switches. Huh, it just stopped calling for fan. It's kind of interesting. And I assume the thermostat must have done that. It's probably like a little energy saving recirc there. But we're gonna go ahead and swap these out real quick. It's just 1 screw, 2 hoses, and a couple of wires, and we should be back in business. Then we'll adjust the thermostat and see if it starts up and we get a good run. Finally, finally. Working on these things is about the easiest thing on earth. So if you're paying HVAC techs thousands of dollars, you should consider just learning it yourself, because they shouldn't be charging you thousands of dollars for this 5-minute job here. The only part of it that's terrible is driving all the way across town to the dealer. Definitely the worst. Wiggle spade connectors off and pull on them. We're doing this live too. I'm not even gonna shut the unit down. That is all you do. If these are loose on the new one, I'm gonna tighten them down. Yeah, why are they vibrating around like that? The new pressure sensors are screwed in. Just push those hoses on there and you can actually clock them. This is square hose. And if you clock it right, you can make sure it stays out of the way of the wheel on the inducer motor and all that good stuff. So that is done and done. And this thing should fire up if we adjust the thermostat now. So I'm pretty excited about that. Last couple wires here. Maybe suddenly I can't get wires onto spade connectors. All right, let's find out. Is it a physical restriction in the pipe, or is it just a failed pressure sensor? There we go. Come on, girl, don't shut down on me. It's been successfully running like multiple hours at a time with this switch jumped. This should be vacuum, and I should be able to feel it. I think it works great. I can hear it click every time I suck in on it. I don't know, maybe the switch contacts are bad. We've got fire, baby. Stay burning. All right, I'll let you guys know if it goes out. This could be 45 minutes, and it could be 1 minute. All right, guys, Dad just came over with the manometer, and we were able to check the inches of mercury, or the water column that we had on the switch. And basically what's happening is the switch is rated at minus 1.27 PF, or inches of water column, and what we're getting is minus 1.39 to 43, somewhere right in that range. And he was like, it's not enough, right? Because every little, like a little jiggle or some wind at the top of the pipe coming out the roof is enough to change the pressure, just enough to trip the switch and mess everything up. So what we decided to do is change the switch, and that was kind of my idea. I was like, maybe I shouldn't mention it, but I think I should. What we're gonna do is go to a switch that's -1, and that will make sure the heater keeps running at all times. And Goodman makes a huge range of these switches, and we also have this thing totally fixed by temporarily using my old block drain switch. This is the new set of switches right here. The block drain, or the front panel here, it's actually measuring this plastic panel back here. This is minus 0.1 inches of water column. So since that one makes every time, we fix the heater by just taking the old one and hooking it up. So now it runs. Obviously it's not safe like this. This will only be like this until tomorrow when I can grab new switches. But I'm gonna go pick up a new Goodman switch at the reading that we need it to be at to make sure that it's not fluttering all the time, and we should be ready to rock. So that was the fix for my heater. It's because we're like at the limit. You're allowed 30 foot of pipe with the number of elbows that we have, and we're at like 30 foot. So since we're like on the bubble, that's why it's just fluttering in and out. If you go to 3-inch pipe, you'll never have this problem, but we simply did not have room for 3-inch pipe, and I also did not want 3-inch pipe coming out the roof of the house. That's gigantic. So I didn't want massive roof penetrations, and that's why I went with the 2. It looks nice and clean out there, and it works. Let's be honest, all of this is gonna work. So there you go, that's the journey of fixing my heater. Now it turns on perfectly, runs to its set point, everything's happy, and tomorrow we'll swap out that last switch and it'll all be good. It kind of sucks that I wasted $29 on this other set, but it's also getting me through the night. Sometimes $29 is worth having heat for the night. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments below if you would pay $29 to have your house warm. I would. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts like the one I'm wearing under this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. Whew, that was an adventure. But I think we've got it all sorted out, and I can finally put all the covers back on and button this up tomorrow. There's no more jumpers in the furnace or anything like that, so I'm also not worried about it. I get a little bit worried when I'm leaving jumpers in production. But to my credit, I took the jumpers back out. You guys know the saying, there's no more permanent fix than the temporary one. But this is gonna go back together and it's gonna be safe. Yeah, here's what we were getting on the manometer. What they call blower drain, or the front panel, is negative 0.92, and that's the switch that's negative 0.1. So we're definitely making that switch at all times. And then on the one that matters, we were getting minus 1.39, and then, you know, a lot of times, I think more often than not, minus 0.142. It's just not enough. It's right on the bubble for that switch. So it would bounce, and those little tiny bounces would cause the gas valve to turn on and off real quick. And then it would flame out and restart and recycle over and over and over. I knew it was the pipe length, because whenever the atmosphere would change outside, I would get good runs. So I think when the air was like not dense at all, this thing would run forever. And then when it would get cold and the air would get dense, it would freak out, which is of course when you need heat, when the air's cold. So it was all based on the barometer or the pressure outside. And that's why I was like, it's gotta be the pipe, it's gotta be. So sometimes it's just that little bit. And if you would have called an HVAC company, they would have just replaced the control board 100 times and then just changed the furnace, right? It's a lot of parts changing, but also I get it. People want their heat and they want it fast. So sometimes you just pay for the parts changing. And sometimes you have to fix it for real, because I was sure it was the elbows and the pipe length. Guys, I had a plan to fix this heater all along. Dad didn't like my plan, but I think this plan is the ultimate safety option. And my plan was to stick a Raspberry Pi in there and take the outputs from that switch into the GPIO of the Raspberry Pi, and then take one of the outputs out of the GPIO and just delay it, basically, right? Add some deadband in there, because that switch responds way too quickly if it's directly hooked into the gas valve circuit, basically. So the second that switch flutters, it causes the gas valve to shut off for just a moment, and that's enough for the flame sensor to be like, oh, the fire's gone, and then the heater restarts, right? It's an infinite cycle of stupidity because it's just so fast. So I was gonna throw a whole Raspberry Pi in there and have it look for that pressure switch, and then once the circuit makes, it will hold for, like, even if it was a half second, 1 second, anything like that, it would be 100% safe, but it's a whole lot of logic to add. He was like, you don't need to do that. Just put the right pressure switch in there, or use like a Dunfoss, a really high-end pressure switch. And he's like, they're fully adjustable. You can set it to right where you want, like 1.1, which would be flawless. But I love my idea of throwing a whole bunch of extra logic inside the heater and slowing it down, and then it would all be fixed on the factory pressure switch until someone else had to troubleshoot it. It'd be game over. But there's a lot of ways you could do it. I think you could just use a timer relay as well. And as long as you slow that thing down a quarter of a second, it would have never failed. It's just tiny little variations. Anyway, more dumb ideas I had to increase the complexity of the heater and add another power input.